Good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. We have come together virtually to celebrate life, health, and hope. If you'll join me in our call to worship, we'll sing the doxology for our gathering. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above, ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen.
Good morning. We're glad you're with us here at the Bryson City United Methodist Church's worship service on this beautiful Sunday morning after a little bit of rain that snuck up on us, but it's a beautiful day. And there's a couple of announcements I just want to mention that we're still working at our office hours, so make sure if you do decide to come to the church, if you would check and make sure that you call ahead of time and make sure somebody's going to be here. We're still adjusting some office hours and how that might be, and the doors will be closed even if Judy and I are here, so you'll need to call ahead. We'll continue with regular worship services over the next few weeks. We will be online, at least we think so far by through the end of April. So that's going to change everything for Easter, for Holy Week services, for everything else. We do have some creative things in the works that we're pretty excited about, including some online Holy Thursday evening services and Holy Friday services in the evening that we're going to work in conjunction with Whittier United Methodist Church and Robbinsville United Methodist Church, so we're pretty excited about that. And there may be some things that we will mail out to you because it's going to be a bit of a participatory event. So stay tuned for more info on that. Also coming up on Easter, as we are adjusting to this new normal, one of the things that we hear about on Facebook and in other places is that, oh, now remember, it's so-and-so o'clock. Remember to change from your nighttime pajamas to your daytime pajamas because most everybody's staying home now, right? And so we thought, wow, wouldn't it be fun to have a pajama party and to have awards for the best pajamas during Sunday morning worship. So stay tuned again for more info about that. But you may want to start looking online for the best pajama. We're looking at the best onesie, we're looking at the best twosie, we're the best family, and different fun things like that. We want to make it fun, and there will be some fun prizes. We'll also continue to do live music. We weren't sure about that or if we were going to have to record music, but with just Ralph and Ann and I here and us practicing social distancing, we're feeling pretty good about staying safe and keeping everyone else safe while still providing the best worship service that we can. And so that's about it for our announcements today. And there will be, if you're on our regular email list, there'll be some more messages and phone calls coming out over the next week or so as we wrap our heads around a little bit more about especially the Holy Week and Easter services that are coming up. So thanks for joining us today. And this is the time that we invite you to share God sightings if you want to. For you folks on Zoom, if you want to share them in the comments section, you can do that. Also, the same thing is true on Facebook Live for our folks joining on Facebook Live. If you have a God sighting, a way that you've seen God at work in the world around you, I mean, especially during these chaotic times, it's so nice to be able to see God at work. And maybe it's through the healthcare professionals that are working tirelessly around us and a lot of the new heroes that are caring for us in the midst of this crisis and chaos. And so we ask that you share those God sightings with us. And also, if you have prayer requests, if there's something on your heart that you would like to have us pray with you about, just let us know. And so that said, we're going to let you guys post up those comments for the next little bit, but also let's turn our hearts to God in prayer right now. Gracious God, we are grateful that you are with us during this time of chaos, that no matter what happens, we know that you are with us and that you can give us hope. We ask that your presence be peace with us. We ask that your healing hands be on those that are struggling with the coronavirus, and that you would protect those that are trying to socially distance themselves and protect themselves and protect others along the way. We just ask that you would be with us today as we are in this place that is scattered throughout the internet, and just know that you are with each and every one of us today, wherever we are, and may your Spirit cover us. We ask that you would hear these prayer requests, celebrate these God sightings with us, and there are still other things that are on our hearts that we quietly lift up now to you as well. For these and many things that have been left unsaid, hear our prayers, O God. Hear our prayers. Draw us close to you, close to each other, as we boldly say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. So as we digitally remind ourselves that the church continues to work behind the scenes to reach out to those in our community that are the last, the least, and the lost, and that financial resources continue to be needed to help those in our community and continue the purpose of the church. So just a reminder that for those of you that are watching online, then feel free to go to the website. There's giving resources there. Sometimes somebody will post up the direct link on Facebook. So anyway, just wanted to remind you guys of this, and that we are continuing to be part of God's mission in our community and to reach out to those that desperately need help the most. So thank you.
So for our music this morning, we thought it would be great to share together a hymn that's very familiar to everybody, Amazing Grace. If you have a hymnal, it's on page 378. And I would like to sing the first and the fourth verse. The fourth verse especially has some message of hope, and I think we need to share that even more right now.
I
Pastor Alf and Ann. And so there are a couple things I forgot to mention earlier is that I know some of you out there are putting together some masks like this for medical professionals. So Becky Painter is organizing an effort at our church here. So if you want to make some homemade masks, let us know. And you can also bring them by the church office. There's a place outside, a little plastic bin outside that you can leave them if you want to, but you can also call ahead and we can get somebody to direct you in the right place. Also next Sunday, for those of you who may worship with us on a regular basis, we generally celebrate communion on the first Sunday. Well, how is that going to look over the next Sunday? Because we still want to observe communion. And so we have been given permission to do communion digitally, which is going to be really cool. So here's the deal. Make sure that you've got over the next week, and that's why I wanted to say something this week. Over the next week, just make sure that you get you a little bit of a grape juice and some bread or crackers that works for you, and we'll share in communion next week together. So it will be new for me, and I think it will be new for many of you. But so that way, each one of us can be prepared with masks. You don't need to wear your mask next week, but bring your grape juice and your crackers or bread. All right, I think I got all that now. So those of you who know me know that I tend to use humor a lot. I tend to in many of my sermons, I'll start with a funny joke or something like that, or a funny story. Those of you who follow me on Facebook know that much of my posting, even if it's culturally relevant, is approached in a humorous way most of the time. And so, so this day is a little bit different. Where I normally like to start with a funny joke, because I think humor is healing. I think humor is a big part of what connects us. If used appropriately, right? Humor can also be used to hurt each other, but I think if used appropriately, healing can really come from good humor. But today I am finding it a little bit harder to be funny. I think for some of us it feels like maybe the church is dying a little bit, where we can't be together. I think we feel like we're dying. We feel like we are secluded. We are created to be in relationship, and so being in a relationship's a little bit tougher these days, and most of us want nothing more than just to get out of the house. Even the introverts are about to the point where they're saying, okay, I could go on a trip now, I need to get out of the house. And so it's kind of a tough time, and sometimes it feels not only that we're so far away from each other, but it can also feel like God is far away from us too. It also feels like maybe at this time we're just not going to be able to live through it. It just is overwhelming, this whole coronavirus crisis, and it's just too much. And it seems like we spend a lot of time not feeling good about it, maybe even crying in a corner. And so reading today's text, I noticed that it seemed like everybody was crying in the text. Jesus' friends were kind of upset with him, frustrated maybe, didn't understand. Jesus wasn't telling any jokes that sometimes he tells to his friends. And so there was a lot more crying going on in today's story from John 11. Now, I thought I'd figured out, for you Facebook folks, I thought I'd figured out how to flip the screen, but that didn't work out as well. But anyway, we're going to be in John 11, 1 through 45. Normally we'll have a little thing that says that right here, but coming soon to a Facebook live feed near you, okay? But for now, I'm going to read the story. It's a story that will be familiar to some of y'all, but some of you it may be new. So a man named Lazarus was sick. He lived in Bethany with his sisters, Mary and Martha. This is the Mary that later poured the expensive perfume on the Lord's feet and wiped them with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was sick. So the two sisters sent a message to Jesus telling him, "Lord, your dear friend is very sick." But when Jesus heard about it, he said, "Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of God will receive glory from this." So although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for the next 2 days. Finally, he said to his disciples, "Let's go back to Judea." But his disciples objected. "Rabbi," they said, "only a few days ago the people in Judea were trying to stone you. Are you going to go there again?" Jesus replied, "There are 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of this world. But at night there is a danger of stumbling because they have no light." Then he said, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go and wake him up." The disciples said, "Lord, if he is sleeping, he will soon be better." They thought Jesus meant Lazarus was simply sleeping. But Jesus meant that Lazarus had died. And so he told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. And for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there, because now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him." Thomas, nicknamed the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let's go too and die with him." When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary for their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if only you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask." And Jesus told her, "Your brother will live again." "Yes," Martha said, "he will rise when everyone else rises on the last day." Jesus told her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never, ever die. Do you believe this, Martha?" "Yes, Lord," she told him. "I have always believed that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one that has come into the world from God." Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, "The teacher is here and wants to see you." So Mary immediately went to him. Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep. So they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up in him, and he was deeply troubled. "Where have you put him?" he asked them. They told him, "Lord, come and see." Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, "See how much he loved him?" But some said, "This man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying?" Jesus was still angry as he arrived at the tomb, a cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. "Roll the stone aside," Jesus told them. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested, "Lord, he's been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible." Jesus responded, "I didn't tell you that so you would see God's glory. Didn't I tell you that if you see God's glory, if you believe?" So they rolled the stone aside. Then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, Thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud this time for the sake of all the people standing here, so that they will believe that you sent me." Then Jesus shouted, "Lazarus, come out." And the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped in a headcloth. Jesus told them, "Unwrap him and let him go." Many of the people who were with Mary believed in Jesus when they saw this happen. And this is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. And so, those of us that have been around the church for a little while probably know the fun fact of the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. And in this case, it's one of those things, it calls attention to it, but why was he weeping? And we wonder sometimes, was it because that he was sharing in Martha and Mary's loss of their brother and his good friend? Was it because of his impending crucifixion and knowing that this was coming? Or was it because of the mourners' unbelief? Maybe it's a little bit of all of it. You see, the story continues on about the mourners sometimes not believing Jesus. You see, in Jesus' day, a lot of the mourners were not paid professionals, but that was part of what the church did, was they sent mourners just to mourn with the family, to be there with the family as they grieved for the loss of their loved one. And so, as Jesus saw the mourners, and then he raised Lazarus, some of the mourners, as the story continues on, believed in Jesus. They believed in who he was, and they celebrated with the sisters the life of Lazarus. While others saw it happen, and they ran back to the officials and told them, "Oh, he's up, he's at it again." It just always astounds me when I hear that part of the story. And it's almost like a little kid is saying, Mommy, he's being the Messiah. Let's get him. It's almost a distraction from them being religiously involved over here and doing what they want to do while they're distracting over here, while they're pointing in another direction. Maybe that's why Jesus was crying. I get it. I know sometimes when I watch Facebook feeds and watch the news and watch other things, sometimes the church's response makes me want to cry. Sometimes our political response makes me want to cry to how we're dealing with this crisis, how we're treating people that are suffering from this crisis, how we're treating the people that are the heroes of this crisis, the medical professionals, the police, the fire folks, everybody that's helping and serving food and helping in the background. Sometimes it just feels like people are using this to get to their own advantage. And I can see why Jesus would be angry, because sometimes I share in that anger too. And so we stay at home, because it's important that we stay home, that we protect those that we love, and even those that we don't know and love. That we come together as a community online so that we can protect everybody else by not contracting or spreading this virus that remains hidden for weeks at a time sometimes, because we don't really know how it's affecting people. And so Jesus calls us to be a healing church. Jesus was all about healing. Jesus was all about giving new life, and calls us as his followers to do the same. Can we do less? Can we do less than protect those around us? Can we do less than provide healing for our community and for our nation? and especially for the least of these. Sometimes the best way to let God work is through waiting. We see it in many stories in the Bible. We see it on the Saturday in between Good Friday and Easter. There's a time of awkward, sad, tough waiting. We just want it to be over. We want to jump to Easter. We want this whole mess to be over and get about our lives. But God calls us to wait as we care for each other. And so I believe that this story, more than anything, should give us hope. It gives us hope that in our isolation, Jesus is coming. It gives us hope in our sickness and in our loss that Jesus is coming. And even if the worst possible thing happens, it's never the last thing for resurrection people, because Jesus is coming to heal and to save and to give the world hope. Can we do less? Amen.
So I hope that you're well and safe. And for our closing hymn, Waynard and Ann and I do want to thank Ann. She is here with us today to provide the organ musical backup. I want to share a benediction of hope. God be with us till we meet again. I think everybody knows that song, so please share this with each other, the hope that we will meet again. This too will pass. So join with us together as you can. God be with us till we meet again. By his counsels guide uphold you. With his sheep securely fold you. God be with us till we meet again. Amen.
God be with you till we meet again online next Sunday and together face to face one day. In that we have hope. Go in peace.